Big Scary back here again. And for this episode, we're gonna have to touch on a little bit more important, a little more serious issues than normal. We'll be back with the MMA stuff pretty next week or something. But for now, we definitely need to touch on some serious topics. I procrastinate a little bit, so when I actually started this, this was before major cities were on fire. But I'll still, it's still all kind of connected, so I'll go from the start and see where we go. So initially, I thought it was interesting that there's been over since early March. There's been over 200 various protests, various workers' protests for such things such as higher wages, paid sick leave, things that most other developed countries have, but for some reason we still don't have that. This is why this coronavirus has been able to just completely ravage the country, because people don't have medical care, so there's no universal health care, so people don't want to get stuck with the bill, and people are just scared to go to the doctor. These aren't even concerns in most other countries. It's like the whole like Breaking Bad, for all you who've seen the show. In most other countries, if that show took place in most other countries, it would be over within the first 5 minutes. Because as soon as he finds out he's got cancer, oh, okay, so you got cancer, well, we'll take care of that for you. There's no reason for you to have to go and start selling meth. So that would have been the end. There wouldn't have been any season 6 or 7, all that, or even episode 2. This show would have been done. But so people are protesting and have been a lot. There's been over 200 protests since March. Yeah, it's interesting. The protests that we see the most of are the open up protests. The open up protests, which all they're talking about is opening up. They're not talking about any better safety measures when we open up or any higher wages. They're just talking about opening up. And so it was no surprise to find out that that was all organized by organization that Betsy DeVos is behind. So, surprise, it was AstroTurfed. That's not a surprise. That's how those things work. And so those were the protests that they showed the most, because they want everyone to think that it's safe to go back and everything go back to normal. Let's get this economy going back again, so we can so the rich can start getting richer again, even though they've been getting rich this whole time. But this is how things are, and so they haven't put all the protests where it's actually been people who've actually been asking for actual higher. The fact that we're still talking about $15 minimum wage is insane. They've been talking about that for years. It needs to be higher than that now. I don't even know how people can survive on $15 an hour. This isn't enough money to survive, and they're making people jump through hoops for years now, and Amazon finally had to be shamed into doing it, and I think Target, there's some other places that have been shamed into it, but it took years. So I don't know. I found this quote by Howard Zinn. He's a famous historian that I kind of thought was a good quote for this time. Civil disobedience is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is that people all over the world have obeyed the dictates of leaders. Millions have been killed because of this obedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty, starvation, stupidity, war, and cruelty. Our problem is that people are obediently filling our jails full of petty thieves while the grand thieves are running the country. That's our problem. Yeah, and that is our problem. We see these the richest billionaires in the United States, or the billionaires in the United States, have made over $400 billion during this epidemic. And I mean, this is while people are standing in food lines. I mean, this is, I mean, I mean, does anything else need to be said? I mean, this is it. So this why it's when you see people getting upset about a Target being looted or something like that. I mean, the rich have been looting our system for years. And I found this nice chart. They always try to demonize all these petty crimes and lock people up for lifetimes, like Howard Zinn said. Yet the rich are still running around robbing us blind. Out of all the theft in the United States, 1/4 of that is the types of actual theft that they talk about. Whether it's larceny, burglary, auto theft, or robbery. 3/4 of the rest of the theft in the world is in the United States is wage theft. But there'll never be any exposés on that about how minimum wage violations they steal 23.2 billion a year from minimum wage violations, 8.8 billion a year from overtime violations, 4 billion a year from rest break violations, 3.2 billion a year off the clock violations. Larceny is 5.3 billion a year. Yet they make that seem like that. Oh, these are. And I mean, granted, I'm not saying it's all right for people to be robbing each other, but I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting the various levels that they make it seem like these small petty crimes are so much worse than the billions of dollars stolen from regular Americans every day. I mean, even Bernie Madoff. I mean, the only reason he even got he got life was because he made the mistake of stealing from rich people. If he'd have just stolen from regular people, he'd still be walking around today. I mean, you see what Steve Mnuchin. I mean, Steve Mnuchin was part of the whole the predatory housing scandal that, and he didn't get any charges for that. He's in Trump's cabinet right now. I mean, this is it's just ridiculous. And so I mean that brings us to where we are now with the major cities in the United States on fire. I mean, people have had enough. I'll read this. This is a Martin Luther King quote that I like. He has so many amazing quotes. It's not enough for me to stand before you tonight and condemn riots. It would be morally irresponsible for me to do that without at the same time condemning the contingent, intolerable conditions that exist in our society. These conditions are the things that cause individuals to feel that they have no other alternative than to engage in violent rebellions to get attention. And I must say tonight that a riot is the language of the unheard. This was in 1968 that he had said that. I mean, so that's literally that says everything right there. I mean, would we have really, if people wouldn't have gone nuts in Minnesota, would there have been any arrests? I mean, would this cop would have, the only reason that they even were fired was because there was video immediately. And then even yesterday, the prosecutor was still saying that there wasn't enough evidence to make an arrest. But as soon as they light the police station on fire, then, okay, now we can make some arrests. So, I mean, no, I'm not saying it's all right I'm not saying that necessarily violent protest is a good thing. But at the same time, I mean, that's why we have a country right now. I mean, that's what the Boston Tea Party was. I mean, that wasn't just, they weren't just non-violently protesting. I mean, that was looting and violence. I mean, that's what they did. I mean, so that's how we're a country now. Throughout our history, I mean, there would be, I probably still wouldn't be able to vote to this day if there wouldn't have been some violent, if it was just all non-violent protest. I'm pretty sure that no civil rights acts would have been passed. I mean, throughout world history, sometimes you need a little violence, and in situations like this, I mean, when there's literally police have their foot on our necks, I mean, what do you expect people to do? I mean, this is the you. I mean, you can only back people up into a corner for a certain amount of time, and I mean, people lose it. And I mean, especially, I'm definitely not condoning the destruction of small businesses. Definitely not that. I mean, these people, this is all people have, and especially in a time like this, a lot of these businesses are uninsured. But when it comes to like Target or something like that, they're insured. I really could care less about that. I mean, that's it is what it is. Sometimes some things you need to. It's just that I mean, that's sometimes just some things need to happen, and I mean, hopefully, and this I've been seeing in France with the yellow vest movement, and I've really been thinking, this is wow, we really need something like that in this country. We really need workers need to finally stand up and unite. And I was hoping, even though I didn't think that the open up protests were, I mean, I thought that was BS, but at the same time, I mean, it would be good if we could all the people who are protesting various things, let's all organize and let's all put our wants together and I mean, there's power in numbers. I mean, these large corporations, I mean, they can only rob people for so long. I mean, this is something people have to make a stand. I mean, it's been, I mean, corporations have completely destroyed unions. I mean, so there's nobody even standing up for workers anymore. I mean, we just live in a time where it's, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. And it's, I mean, hopefully things get better after this. I mean, I definitely have no delusions that any of those officers are actually going to get convicted or anything. I mean, maybe this will be one of the first. I mean, but I don't know that it will, but I mean, quite honestly, maybe even if he doesn't convicted, I mean, hopefully there'll at least be change. And I mean, people, if they'll see, the powers that be will see that, I mean, people are ready to rise up. I mean, people are getting their pitchforks. You can only put your foot on the workers' necks for a certain amount of time before, I mean, it's time to stand up and do something. And I don't know. I hope nobody, I mean, I pray that nobody gets hurt. And I mean, obviously I'm sure that there's going to be people arrested, and the police are going to probably brutally do some of the same stuff that they've been doing. I mean, this is what they do. And even on a CNN reporter was arrested on live television. And I mean, that was before the officer had even been arrested. So I mean, this is, I don't know. I'm optimistic about the future, but at the same time, I've been optimistic about the future, and I'm usually wrong with my optimism. So I don't know. I don't know. But I just know that whatever. I mean, this is the moment in history where this is our civil rights rallies. This is the time in our generation where, I mean, we're witnessing the future of the United States. I mean, how things are going to play out is all according to what we all choose to do at this time. Do you choose to be on the right side of history, or do you choose to be on the wrong side of history? So yeah. I don't know. I'm going to be covering this and many other important stories soon. You can always find me on Twitter, Big Scary, on Facebook, Big Scary, and Trauma Television, because this is Trauma Television production, and on YouTube, on Trauma Television. And as Martin Luther King said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.